بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Today we reflect on a fascinating verse in the Quran which talks about the different stages of life that we go through. So Allah says, الله الذي خلقكم من ضعف ثم جعل من بعد ضعف قوة ثم جعل من بعد قوة ضعفا وشيبة. So Allah says, first He created you in a weak state, and then you became strong, and then you became weak again. So let's look at the first stage. We are created from a little drop, and then we come out as infants from our mother's womb. Now, human beings are one of the weakest creatures when they are initially born. If you contrast this across the animal kingdom, it's vastly different. Look at a cat. A cat, kittens when they're born, they can walk in about 4 or 5 weeks, and after 8 weeks, they actually don't rely on their mother anymore. Whereas a human being, when they come out, they're completely useless. They can't walk, they can't feed themselves, they actually go to the bathroom on themselves, they're completely reliant on others. And they don't start walking till about 9 months at the earliest. And they cannot get away from being reliant upon their parents or upon their mother. They can't feed themselves. Whereas other creatures or other animals can do that so much quicker. So this is the initial stage of weakness that the human being is, so we should be humbled at how much we depend on others. And then we move into another stage of life. The next stage of life is that this small little infant here starts to grow up and grow up. And then you start to get stronger. So you get physically stronger. You get mentally stronger. And you continue along this. So a 10-year-old, then he becomes 15, then he becomes 20. And then you'll reach a point where you're actually at both your physical and your intellectual peak. And this is like the prime of your life. Okay? Because I could bring a 21-year-old who's very muscular, but he's not going to be at his intellectual peak. Or I could bring somebody who's brilliant intellectually, but maybe they've passed their physical peak. But you'll reach a point where you'll be at both. And this is where Allah is saying, now you get strength. So now you feel you can do so many things. And then what happens? After we move on, then what happens? We literally start to decline. So oftentimes you'll see elder people, they will kind of start declining. They won't stand straight, right? And the same person who was doing so many things before, who was just bowing down in prayer, who was driving, now they cannot drive, now they have to sit in their prayer. Now they move more slowly, same person. This is through the different stages that they're going through. And then Allah says, like, they develop gray hair. Gray hair is symbolic of getting older, of getting more advanced in your years, right? And it's interesting when you look at presidential candidates, they say when they're in office there for 4 years, it's actually more like 8 years because they age so much. So these are the different life cycles that we are going through. And we should humble ourselves. So either we are always in one of these cycles. Maybe you have a little cousin or brother or relative who's young. Maybe you yourself are young. Maybe you're middle-aged, whatever you are. So what's important for us to reflect upon is to learn from the different stages. So when we see a little infant, we say, SubhanAllah, how Allah created this infant and how dependent they are, we should be humbled. And then when we're at our peak physically, then we should do all we can to earn good rewards. Because if you look at life, when you're really young, you don't do much, and then when you get older, you're limited. So you really only have a very small window. And I want to conclude with the last part when it comes to our parents. Our parents, as they near retirement age, get past retirement age, they cannot do the things they used to be able to do. They physically cannot. They don't have the same mental sharpness. So our job is, as things get more difficult to them, we become more compassionate and more merciful and more gentle. And this is the real test. Anybody can just go and start yelling at people as they get older, but we should get out of denial. As they say, denial is not a river in Egypt. And we need to accept this fact because this is how life goes. And inshallah, if we are kind to them in their older age, then inshallah, when we reach that age, then people will be kind to us. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to give thanks to Him for all that He has given us and to utilize every moment of our life to do good. Wa akhiru da'wahum alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.